Thanks so much to both of you for being here. Alex, let's start first with you. I want to talk about Trump doubling down on this immigration, this really dark rhetoric around immigrants in this country and immigration. What are you hearing from your sources that are his allies? Do they think this is the right way to go on this?
Well, some obviously think that they would prefer Trump to shut up and to stick to the issues. Now, I will say there are some Trump allies that actually see this as sort of a classic Trump strategy, which is throw out some, especially race baiting chum into the water. And then eventually you change the conversation. And, they point to the fact that the last 4 days, we've been talking more about these comments about Springfield, Ohio, than we have about Kamala Harris's debate performance. And you often see him do these things when he feels his back is against the wall. Then he'll just throw out unverified, occasionally conspiratorial things and change the conversation.
Yeah. And Khadija, look, let's call them what they are. These are lies that he's telling huge groups of people and spreading online. It's not just that. There's also, as we were saying, this unverified, not true concept he keeps talking about of that Harris had an earpiece at the debate, on and on. In terms of moving the needle in what is a very tight race, what does this sort of rhetoric do to get him more voters?
Yeah, so obviously Donald Trump is talking to his base, which he already has solidified. The last thing people, that 5 to 6% who is actually going to determine the race, the last thing they want to hear is him talking about conspiratorial things that he did in 2016 or 2020 when he, said the election was false. This is something that surely will turn those swing voters off, or Republicans who are looking for any reason not to vote for him. That's something that's going to turn him off. And I have to say, when I talk to members of Congress, Republican members of Congress, this is the last thing they want to hear also, because their point is they don't want to have to litigate this from reporters like me on the Hill, or when they go back home to their constituents. They just don't want to talk about anything related to conspiracy and would love to hit Kamala Harris on actual issues.
Yeah, I there's no doubt about it. Those lawmakers in the halls of Congress do not want you and our other colleagues up there on the Hill talking to them about this. They want to be talking about other things. Alex, to Khadija's point in terms of going after voters that could actually make a potential, impact in this race, we see Harris and her campaign more broadly trying now to go in these more conservative areas. You're looking at rural Pennsylvania, where Trump won in 2020. That is kind of Trump country. A lot of those places in Pennsylvania where the Democrat usually does really well in the big cities. But is this in terms of a strategy? She wants to keep the margins down in those areas and then run up the score likely in the bigger cities and places where she runs stronger.
Yeah, I mean, this very clearly shows that she has distinct strengths and weaknesses from Joe Biden. Joe Biden was struggling with his base. Kamala Harris is struggling with the middle. And that's why you're seeing her go to these places. It's also one thing, it's a classic Obama era strategy. And it's not a coincidence that a lot of the Obama aides from 2008, 2012 are now on the campaign, because this was a classic thing that Barack Obama's campaign would do, is you go to places where you're not trying to win, but you're just trying to lose by less. And in doing so, you also get credit and good press for doing so.
And Khadija, we also saw her in Philadelphia do this interview with a local station, a big powerhouse station there in Philadelphia. In terms of that strategy, doing local press, doing local interviews, help explain the thinking behind that. That was something Biden did again and again and again in 2020. They were very adamant about spending his time doing that.
Well, Kamala Harris has been criticized a lot for not talking to members of the press. So it's not surprising to me that the campaign is probably looking at that a little differently as they're 50 days away from Election Day. So, yeah, she, talking to the Philadelphia anchor, that's going to, broaden or reach people who are still in that undecided area. Pennsylvania, obviously a swing state. And I'll also add, going to Philadelphia specifically and talking to members of the National Association of Black Journalists, also another way to touch, Pennsylvania voters, and Philadelphia, who was largely Democratic, but also, again, chipping into wanting to maintain that base. And, I think that things like that are very important.
And Alex, just based on who you're talking to and just your thoughts having reported on all of this, again, her taking some heat, mostly in a lot of cases from a lot of Republicans and the media itself for not doing so many interviews. What do you make of this strategy of sitting down with more local affiliates? Tim Walz did an interview yesterday as well.
Yeah, listen, like doing local interviews, no political strategist would say that it is a bad strategy. But the fact is that she's getting a lot of pressure to do interviews, and it's clear that she does not want to do national interviews. They've made this, she's been in the race for over 50 days, and she has not done one solo TV interview with a national outlet or a print interview. And so this is also a way to say, hey, I am doing media and I'm prioritizing local media, but also still not engaging the national media. And the reason is because some of her worst moments as vice president have been in these national interviews. And for any further evidence that, just look at the Trump campaign ads. Many of those ads are full of her interviews with national reporters, including CNN and Lester Holt at NBC. So that is part of what's going on here.
All right. And then the early voting in Pennsylvania, just right around the corner on Monday. All right. Alex Thompson and Qadiyah Gobba, our thanks to both of you.